So let's jump in. And I want to start by talking about how you can use music as a hack to put you in a better mood almost instantaneously. It turns out, according to research, that when you listen to songs that you liked when you were growing up, or songs that were kind of like the anthem during certain periods of your life, research shows that simply listening to these old songs puts you in a better mood. And I think you kind of know this. You kind of know this, right? Because you've experienced this before. But when I share the research with you and we really unpack this and what's happening in your body and your brain, I really want you to lean into this because it's a powerful tool that you can use in your day-to-day life. Okay? So just picture this. You're driving in your car. You're just cruising down the highway. You're thinking about work, or you're thinking about your grocery list, or you're wondering, oh my God, did anyone feed the dog? Your mind is just busy turning over these thoughts. And all of a sudden, one of your favorite songs from high school comes on the radio. For me, oh boy, there was a phase early in high school. I was so into The Cure and the Specials. You know, Friday, I'm in love. I don't even want to sing. I'm a terrible singer. You guys know my daughter's a singer. You will turn this off if I sing. So I'm not going to be singing. But then there was a phase where everybody in my high school in Western Michigan was way into Bruce Springsteen. Born in the USA, came out, I believe, when I was in high school. And there was also this whole body of music that's now called yacht rock. That's that sort of like easy, soft rock stuff that my parents were constantly playing. It was like always in the house or in the car or like in the boat. You know that song, If You Like Pina Colada? So I'm so embarrassed. I am so embarrassed when I sing because I think I have a terrible voice. But when you even think about those lyrics, if you like pina coladas, aren't you immediately transported back in time? I mean, first, if you think about your favorite songs, stop and think right now. What was one of your favorite songs when you were in high school? Maybe you even had a poster hanging in your room. You played it over and over and over again. If you had siblings, they were like, turn it off. Oh my gosh, you knew all the words. If you think of that song, you immediately start thinking about all the memories that you have from that period of your life. And what's so interesting about this to me is you don't have to think to yourself, oh, I'm going to think about that time I took a road trip with friends and now that the song is on. No. Your mind naturally, just hearing the song, goes there. I cannot hear that song, If You Like Pina Coladas. I don't even know what the heck the name of the song is. Don't. You know that song, right? And not immediately just go back to being in middle school and nights in Michigan where I grew up. It just naturally goes there. You think of your song. Maybe you're thinking about a road trip with friends or the day you went to see that band in concert. Or a school dance where, you were just so excited because you had a huge crush on that person and that song was playing in the sweaty gymnasium in middle school. Or I don't remember what song it is. Maybe you guys can remember this, but there was a song when I was in middle school. Gosh, I was racking my brain trying to figure this out. I'm hoping you will write in and tell me what this was. It was a song that would play near the end of every middle school dance. And I'm talking early 80s, everybody. It is a song that is probably 8 minutes long. And this song would come on, and so help me God, I cannot remember what it is. But if you were dancing with somebody that you really liked, you were so excited. I mean, because you were going to hold them close. This was going to be like that hip rocking circle for, 8 minutes long. Oh yeah, you won the lottery because you get to be with this. But if you were with the wrong person, this is like a slow death march in a circle with the wrong person. And that's, I wish I could remember that. You know what it is? It like starts out slow and then it builds and it's like so long and it was at the end of anyway. Or I'll give you another example. When I was in 8th grade, my dad fulfilled his lifelong dream of renting a motorhome and taking his family on a cross-country road trip where we visited all of these national parks. And we had 3 8-track cassette tapes in that motorhome. We had Neil Diamond's greatest hits. We had the band America and their greatest hits. And we had Hooked on Classics. And I'm going to tell you something. If Hooked on Classics comes on, I can feel myself just hearing that music, like just the I feel myself in the motorhome cruising down I-90 toward the Corn Palace in Iowa, playing gin rummy with my mom and my brother in the back while my dad drove. I mean, it's immediate. You know what I'm saying? You've got these songs, right? There's research around what's happening because you don't have to think. Your body and your brain remembers. And here's another one. So I haven't talked to you guys about this, but I am all fired up because my daughters and I just went to see Taylor Swift in concert. Holy cow. I got to do a whole episode about everything that I learned from Taylor Swift, but that's a whole nother thing. It was insane what a sensory experience that concert was. Because her first album debut came out when Kendall was, I think, 7 years old. I mean, Kendall picked up a guitar in order to learn how to play Taylor's music. Her music was the soundtrack of my life as a young mom and of their life growing up. I mean, when you got two girls, like that's what was playing. And so fast forward almost 2 decades later, here we are in concert screaming our brains out. And it's almost like as all the music was playing, I was both in the concert with my adult daughters, but I could also feel in my body like I was in a car, like in 2010, driving carpool to a lacrosse tournament and Cruel Summer's playing. You know what I mean? I'm drunk in the back of the car. Holy cow. What about you? What was some of the favorite music from your past? Is there a particular song that brings up fun memories for you? Like maybe it was the song that played the summer you graduated from high school, or the song that your dad always played. And every time you hear the song, you immediately think of him. Or maybe it was your first dance song, right? Every time our first dance song comes on the radio, Barry White, Can't Get Enough of Your Love. That's what Chris and I first dance. I'm like, wedding song. Like, and I'm right there. Well, I want to explain the research to you. Because according to researchers, you and I can use the happy associations from these songs of our past to lift our mood in the present. How cool is that? And you've experienced it just by accident. But I want you to get intentional about this because check this out. The researchers dove deep into understanding why memories associated with songs like immediately change your mood. And they say that you and I tend to have more memories associated with older songs than newer ones. And there's a term for this. It is called neural nostalgia. In other words, these songs from our past where we have really positive memories and positive emotional associations with them. I'll give you another one. The Steve Miller Band, that album with the horse head on the cover, that I played that, oh my gosh, sophomore summer in college. And these songs from your past that you and I have positive associations with, it's kind of like reminding you of a time in life when you had less stress, when maybe you had a little less on your plate, you were a little more innocent, you felt a little more hopeful. You have happy memories that are intrinsically linked with music from your past. So the fancy way that scientists talk about this is they call this music-evoked autobiographical memory, which means you have emotions that are like crazy strong driving to the grocery store simply because you hear a song from the past. And what's also cool is like, let's just say you're driving to the grocery store, right? And all of a sudden, the song that was the defining song of your high school summer or your college years or being a young parent or being in your 20s in the city, all of a sudden hits the car. your body changes immediately. And you know what else happens? Vivid memories. You immediately remember living in the city post-college with your friends. You immediately remember that summer that you took that road trip. You immediately remember your childhood and something you were doing. And we're going to get into the science of why this is the case. And I am so fired up about this topic because I just experienced this with the Taylor Swift concert. Not only at the concert, by the way, but a week before, our daughter Kendall found a playlist of the set that Taylor was going to play. And again, Kendall is the super fan. And so she was like, you got to listen to the playlist. And I'm like, I know all these songs. She's like, I know, but you got to listen to the playlist. I'll tell you what, even listening to the set list before the concert, as I'm driving my errands and I'm going here and there, it flooded me with a decade and a half of memories raising my girls. And the same thing is going to happen to you. I mean, you've experienced this. There's nothing cooler than it being a beautiful day and the windows are down in the car and the song is coming on the speakers and the wind is blowing and you feel this feeling of freedom and joy. So let me explain what's going on inside your brain when you hear music that you associate with great memories. It's so cool because what's happening is biological. See, the music is activating a part of your brain called the limbic system. And the limbic system is located beneath the brain surface, and it's involved in learning, but it also is in charge of memory and emotional responses. And I find it personally fascinating that the research shows that the limbic system is involved and activated when you are listening to music from your past. And all of a sudden, all these memories are triggered. And it made me think about something. So in the world today, we talk a lot about trauma, right? And when you hear the word trauma, you immediately think negative past experience, right? And if you've ever had a traumatic experience, one of the things that happens is all of a sudden you'll be living your day-to-day life and boom, some negative memory pops into your mind from the past. And I can give you a quick example. So one traumatic experience for me is that I was in a car crash where the car rolled. And I can remember being in that car like it was yesterday. Like I can literally close my eyes. The memory is so seared into my mind and into my body that I know exactly what it felt like to be in that car as it rolled. Now, here's an interesting thing. That accident happened when it was snowing. And there was a particular sound that I heard as the car was rolling. And it's the sound of snow crunching. You know how snow's like. And to this day, I'm talking decades later, if I walk down a sidewalk and the snow crunches under my feet, I have the sensation of immediately being back in a car that's rolling. It's a form of negative neural nostalgia, right? Like we've just been learning about how songs can take you back to the positive. So here's what I want you to understand that I think is super cool. The same mechanism in your body that records negative traumatic experiences, right? And you then get triggered and you remember them or you feel things from your past. It's the exact same recording system that records the positive ones. And it explains why you remember positive memories when it was like something super emotional. It's because the high state of emotion, being in a car crash, high state of emotion, right? And when you're in a high state of emotion, the limbic system's activated and it's trying to remember everything. The emotions are on fire and it's trying to protect you. Oh my God, oh my God, oh my God, which is why it records it. It's why I remember the sound. Same thing with positive. Same thing with positive. You're in a high positive emotional state. Think about graduation from high school. Think about graduation from college. Think about your wedding day. Think about when your first child was born. Think about some of the most positive experiences, even positive experiences like you are seeing your favorite band play. I will never forget what it was like to be in that stadium with my daughter screaming every single word of those Taylor Swift songs. I was in such an activated, excited, positive state that my limbic system was on fire recording the memory. And it's the reason why, for example, you can remember things like, I bet you can remember what kind of day it was and details about your high school graduation years later, right? You can almost put yourself back there. Highly positive state. But I bet you cannot remember what you did the Thursday before graduation, can you? Of course not. If you've ever been in a car accident, you know exactly what you were doing right before the accident happened. But you don't know what you were doing 2 days before. And there's a reason why. The heightened emotional state that your body went into is what triggers the recording of the memory. That's why this works. And, I hate the fact that, it's good that we have a word for negative trauma, but I wish we had like a really amazing pump up word for the positive recording, because it's the exact same thing. It's only with your best memories, not your worst. And what this research is telling you is that this neural nostalgia that gets created because of the heightened emotion and also repetition, that's also part of the research when it comes to the encoding of these memories. And you listen to the song over and over and over, and you're having these happy days, and it's the best summer of your life, and oh my God, that it's the heightened emotion that locks in the memory. That's why this works. Isn't the science so cool? And this explains why neural nostalgia is such a hugely cool thing and can be a remarkable tool for you to help you lift your mood or to help you change your mindset. Because that song that you heard at one of your favorite concerts? Boom, it can put you right there. Like for example, for me, one of the best concerts I have ever been to in my entire life, 2017, Gillette Stadium, U2 Joshua Tree album tour. All I have to do is hear the opening riff of the first song on U2's Joshua Tree album. What is it? Streets Have No Name? I don't even know the name of the song, but I know the riff. Like the guitar starts playing and all of a sudden it like accelerates. Incredible song. And I'm transported to Gillette Stadium, July 2017. And a funny story about that tour, right before the concert, I happened to be giving a speech in Vegas to 27,000 people. And I was standing backstage, one of the biggest events that I'd ever spoken at. And the whole setup and the production for that event, 27,000 people, was unbelievable. And the guy who was working for the production company who did the event in Vegas that I was speaking at also happened to be the production company that was doing U2's tour. And he told me the story about the fact that it was the first time, if any of you ever saw that tour, it was incredible because U2 played in front of this massive, like IMAX size screen. And it was the first time that anyone had ever done a tour with a screen that size. It was 8K resolution. It was 200 feet by 40 feet tall cinematic screen. It was the largest high-res screen at a touring show ever. And he told me the funniest story. He said that a few years before the Joshua Tree tour, U2 had signed a contract to do a stadium tour. But the album that they were planning to tour wasn't ready. So they had to scramble because they had booked all the stadiums, and they decided to just do their most popular album of all time, like front to back, cover to cover. I mean, absolutely incredible. And I don't know if it's a true story or not. It's just the one that he told me. And I got to tell you, it was one of the best nights of my entire life. And I'll tell you why. Joshua Tree, the album, was released March 9th, 1987. Which was the spring of my freshman year of college. I played that album until the needle broke on my record player. I mean, it was the album of my college experience, and so many other people too. In fact, at the concert in 2017, it was like crazy. There was a huge thunderstorm, and right before U2 came out, the sky broke open and the sun came down, and then all of a sudden that first song played and the 200-foot cinematic screen started running the music videos that had played on MTV back in the day. And I looked around, everybody there was my age. It was like the world's biggest college reunion, all of us who had been freshmen in 1987. It was magical. It was iconic. But here's the part I want you to hone in on. Your favorite music from the past can help you hit the reset button on your mood right now. Simply putting on one of your favorite songs from high school, from college, from your childhood, from another time in your life that reminds you of a really good memory. The second you hit play, your mind and your body does the work. It changes you. And as we go further and further into this topic of using music as a hack, you're going to learn the science. It's absolutely insane how this works. And I want you to understand this because whenever you're stressed or you're feeling really low or you're having a bad day or you're feeling isolated or alone, I want you to be able to use this tool. I don't want you to just listen to me today as you're taking your walk or you've invited me into your house or your car or you're watching me, on the TV if you're on YouTube. I don't want you to just nod along and be like, yeah, I've experienced this, Mel. I know exactly what you mean. And I know exactly what my song is. Because these songs that transport you are a hack and a tool to make your life better. I want you to make a playlist. Because anytime that you want to shift in your mood, you don't have to wait for lightning to strike. You can put a song on that you love and you can let the song do the work. And it could be exactly what you need. And oftentimes you don't need to want it to work. Seriously. Have you ever had somebody that's like really sad and you're like, oh, come on, let me cheer you up. And they're like, I don't really like it. And then all you do is you put their favorite song on. They look at you and they're mad because they don't want to feel better. And the song turns on. And by the time the song's done, they're feeling better. That's why this is such a great hack, because you don't have to feel like it. You just have to put on the music that will lift your mood. And this is for when you want an immediate shift. I want you to consider this research when you're feeling like, I don't know. Put the song on and let the research and your brain do the work for you. In fact, I've got a little hack for you. If you ever want people to help you do the dishes, all you got to do is play music. My trick is I've got this disco playlist that I use to make people help me with the dishes. Yep, you have a big dinner party, you got your family around, you got a backyard barbecue. Boom, hit the disco playlist. Mine begins with YMCA. And you people like Young Men, da 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 da. Like when that starts playing, people cannot sit at the table while you're bussing. Everybody starts picking up their plates and sort of wiggling toward the kitchen, and you will all of a sudden have put on a playlist disco that activates brainwaves inside of everybody, and now they're moving and they're grooving and they're motivated and they're helping you, and it becomes a dish party instead of a chore that you have to do. So I want you to use this to your advantage, and here's how. Number one, make a playlist in advance. When you're done listening to this, please make a playlist. Remember back in the day, if you're in your 20s, you probably did not do this. Although maybe you make playlists for people. You probably make playlists for people. Well, being 55 years old, I remember making mixtapes for other people that I loved. Remember doing that? Where you would have one of those fancy stereos that had a double cassette player so you could stop, play, record, stop, and you'd have to, do you remember that? I remember being so psycho about it. I remember actually trimming and doing hand edits on this at time. And so when you made a playlist, what were you doing? You were trying to communicate emotion to somebody. This is how I feel about you. I made this gift for you. When you make a playlist for somebody today, you're doing the same thing. Make it for yourself. Make a playlist of your favorite old songs. And here's another hack. You can create the playlist and not fill it yet. So I've got all these playlists. I'll talk more about this. And if you're just randomly listening and a great song comes up, just add it to the existing playlist. And you can label them based on your mood. My hype playlist, my I'm feeling down, pick me up playlist, my high school favorite songs playlist. And those tunes will get your mood up. And you want to know how you know that this research is true? Look at Spotify. They have playlists that are marketed to you based on mood. Confidence, sunny afternoon, fun barbecue. They know what they're doing. They know the science. So you use the science too. Your playlist should be made to put yourself in an uplifted mood. You can shake off a bad day and you can tap into, now you know the fancy word, neural nostalgia, but you always knew that this was there. Now I just want you to use it. All right, that's hack number one. So now I want to move into the next way you're going to use music as a hack. And there's this really interesting area of research in the role that music can play when it comes to priming your brain so that you perform your best. And the way we're going to dig into this is that we're going to cover two different types of music. First up, we're going to unpack music that you can listen to, and should listen to, by the way, before you're about to do something, okay? So you can think of this first type of music in the research kind of like priming your brain. You're getting ready to do your best, okay? Then we're going to unpack research on a type of music or sound that's called binaural beats, which is a specific sound that you should be listening to while you're either studying, writing, or reading. It will help you stay focused. It can help you relax. In fact, I'm going to play some for you in just a bit. And I'm so excited for you to know this, which is why I want you to share this with everyone who wants to perform their best, because this hack and this research you're about to learn is a total game changer. So let's cover the first kind of music. The first kind of music that you should listen to right before you're going to do something important that is going to require you to either perform or requires concentration. This kind of music I want you to think about is like your personal walk-on music. Just like a sports team, you know how they all play the walk-on music? All the NFL guys run onto the field, boxers come on with the thing playing. Well, it hypes them up. The same thing works for you and me before we're supposed to write or pay our bills or do something that really matters where you want to perform. And, you know, it may seem kind of weird. Mel, why would I play all this hype up music to get me all pumped up before I have to sit my butt in a chair and concentrate? I mean, isn't that kind of like gonna backfire? Like getting myself all jacked up and then I'm supposed to sit still? Not exactly. I want you to check this study out. This study proved that what they call, quote, familiar energetic music, researchers say that when you listen to this sort of familiar energetic music, which basically means hype music that you like, they say that it delivers performance gains inside you and puts you into a state of peak performance and focus. So I'm sure you're thinking, what the heck is familiar energetic music? It's just music that you listen to that energizes you. For me right now, my playlist, it's like Lizzo, Dua Lipa, like anything that's like, okay, I got to get up and dance. And this is different than the kind of music that you and I were talking about earlier, right? Like kind of think about U2 from 1987 versus Dua Lipa. Very different kind of music, right? The neural nostalgia music from U2 or that Pina Colada song, right? That reminds you of your parents. That's about triggering emotion. That's what that hack is about. That's about transporting yourself from one emotional state to another. Whereas this second hack and research is about using this sort of hype music and walk-on song idea to prime you energetically. And let me explain the research because it's actually kind of incredible. This is a study that they did at NYU's Tandon School of Engineering. And so, you know, it's an engineering study. Like they actually kind of tallied it. They were fastidious about it. And sure enough, this study lasted 6 years. In the study, scientists asked people to put on wearable tracking devices, you know, kind of like a Fitbit. And then they were part of the study for 6 years. So the scientists have 6 years of data to back this up. I mean, this is a deep study on human behavior. And they measured brain activity as people did things like drink coffee or sniff kind of a stimulating aroma like a perfume. And also they measured brain activity when you listened to different kinds of music. So check this out. After 6 years, the research found that energetic music, I'm talking whatever floats your boat. You like EDM, you like country, you like Dua Lipa, doesn't matter. Whatever gets you like going, right? That when you listen to that kind of energetic music, it measurably alters brain arousal and altered it even more than other things that were measured in the study, more than coffee. So why on earth is kind of hype music that you love more effective at priming your brain than coffee? Well, check this out. This is where the science comes in. It's because of something called the beta band in your brain. So brainwave activity in this area, the beta band, puts you into a state associated with peak cognitive performance. And music increases activity to this beta band area. And you felt this, haven't you? You know, like you've got a big meeting or an interview, you put on a hype song. And when you walk in, don't you feel better? Of course you do. So if you need to be on top of your game today, maybe you need to memorize something, or maybe somebody that you love needs to get a really good grade on the psych exam. Or let's say you're getting close to work, or you're on your commute right now as you're listening to me. Instead of just dragging yourself into the office, another day, as you're walking the last few blocks or you're driving in the last couple miles, put on one of your favorite hype, energetic songs. Don't drag yourself in. It's not just another Monday. Do you know that the best weeks of your life all started with a Monday? So let's turn on the music and let's pump yourself up. You can sing along. And this is also why I really do want you to share this episode with people in your life, particularly people who are taking tests, whether they're sitting for board exams right now, or they're taking their real estate license, or they're just trying to, not fail out of high school. You all need to hear this. Before an exam, you got to block out the world and all the anxious energy, and you got to put your headphones on. And as you're walking into the school or you're walking into that test center, do not let that outside energy into your brain to distract you. You got to walk into that test like a boxer in a ring and destroy this freaking thing. And I want you to use the science. I want you to activate the brain waves in the beta band. I don't even know if I'm saying it correctly, but I want you to activate the science and use music to prime your brain into a state of peak performance. And simply using music and this research will get it done. And you know what's so cool about this? Is that music is practically free. I mean, you can change your mood. You can increase your clarity and focus and activate a peak performance state by hitting play and simply listening to some of your favorite songs. And, you've seen pro athletes, haven't you? You know what they do? Like if you ever see like tennis players, haven't you noticed they sometimes put on headphones? Have you ever noticed that people sit on the sidelines with headphones on? Why? So that they can get themselves back in like that headspace of winning. And, I got to share this thing with you because I think this is kind of cool. And it just shows you the power of this research and using it in your life. So as I was digging into the study, and we always read the studies and dig in and make sure that it's something that's legit and peer reviewed and something that you can really feel confident and trust. And the scientists worked on this study, get this, for over 6 years, which means they have 6 years of data to back up this finding and recommendation. I mean, we're talking about a deep, validated study on human behavior. And this is what researchers were saying in their conclusions on a scientific study. There's always a conclusion at the end of, like a major academic study where the researchers kind of give you their findings, and they may even, talk about what studies need to be done next. And researchers in this study were blown away by the possibility. They were so excited by the findings that I'm sharing with you. This is a quote of what the researchers of this study said. Wouldn't it be great if we could live in a world where we could use simple things that are available to us to change our states of mind from angry to more peaceful, or from afraid to focused and alert? Wouldn't life be so much better? Of course it would. And it would too. I want that for you. And that's why I love bringing you these little science-backed tips that can help you do exactly that you have access to right now. In fact, so many of you that are fans of the Mel Robbins podcast around the world, you're writing in and you're like, how do I change my mindset? How do I stay positive? How do I be more optimistic? And I am sitting here telling you, this is a tool. It's in your tool chest right now. And what's also so cool is that the Mel Robbins podcast, which is helping you improve your life, is adjacent to this tool right on your smartphone. Because if you're listening in audio, whether you're on Spotify or Apple or Amazon Music or whatever, you can also listen to music in that same app. And so that means you're like, boop, one click away from building a playlist and tapping into this research, whether you're going to use the neural nostalgia to immediately transport you to happy memories and a lifted mood, or you're going to use this research around what I'm calling the hype music and the beta band in your brain to put you in a state of peak performance. 2 different playlists, profound research, immediate results. According to research at Harvard Medical School, fresh flowers in your home has such a positive impact on your mood, on your mental well-being. Let me tell you about this research. Dr. Nancy Etkoff of Mass General Hospital here in Boston, she's at Harvard Medical School, did a study that proves that living with cut flowers in your apartment, in your home, strengthens feelings of compassion. Cut flowers decrease anxiety and worry. I know that if you're not a flower person like me, you're probably like, what? Flowers? Anxiety? Come on, Mel. It's kind of easy to be skeptical, right? And so you may be thinking, well, okay, how exactly did Dr. Etkoff and her team at Harvard measure how flowers make you feel? I dug into the research for you, and here's what I found. They had people in this study live with fresh cut flowers in their homes for less than a week. And then they measured them before and after. And the study showed that people who had fresh cut flowers in their house felt an increase in feelings of compassion and kindness for others. Why? Well, I want you to stop and think about a moment when you really did stop and smell the roses. Maybe you're listening to me right now as you're on a walk, or you're sitting at a stoplight in your car. Look around. Is there something blooming? Just think about how insane it is. Like, for real. How the heck did this living work of art unfold in front of my eyes from the dirt? That you take a tulip and it starts with this like dried up brown bulb, and you stick it in the soil and it just bursts through the soil and it shoots up this green stem, and then this beautiful flower forms. It's so beautiful. And you also know that it's fragile, that if you touch the petals too hard, you'd rip it off. Just staring at a beautiful bloom, it activates this sense of the beauty and the fragility of life within you. And I think that's what activates kindness and compassion as you look at it. And you just go, isn't that beautiful? And you feel yourself soften. That's what the researchers are talking about. You know, it's also why instinctively you send flowers to somebody when they lose a loved one, don't you? Or you send flowers to someone on their birthday. Or when you want to express this love that you have for someone who's in your life. You send flowers because they stand for something. Flowers represent joy. They represent beauty. They represent awe. They represent the fragility of life. So does it really surprise you that in this study from Harvard, that people in the study said they felt less negative after being around flowers in their house for just a few days? It doesn't surprise me at all when I really stop and think about it. Of course it would have that impact on you. In fact, that's not all the research found. The researchers at Harvard found that the blooms brought people so much joy that they started reporting in the study that they were looking forward to seeing the blooms first thing in the morning. And I'm going to ask you to stop and think about that finding for just a moment too. You know, when somebody sends you flowers, right? Or you take the time to cut flowers, you buy a beautiful bouquet for yourself at the farmer's market and you bring them home. And then you put them in a vase and you put them somewhere. You typically put them in the dining room table, or you put them in the middle of the island of the kitchen, or you put them on your desk or next to your, the dresser, you know, next to your bed so you can see them. Isn't it true that when you have beautiful flowers in your kitchen that simply walking into the kitchen and seeing them on the table or on the counter or on your desk, it just kind of makes you feel better. In fact, this morning I was out with the dogs. So, the dogs always wake me up, and then I let them out and I was walking around the yard and I cut a bunch of lilacs off the bush. And when I got into the house, I'm like arranging the lilacs into this glass vase and I put them in the kitchen and I stand back and I smile at them. And it's like having a friend greet you. In fact, before I jumped on the mic, I walked back down to the kitchen to fill my water up. There they were. And bonus with lilacs, because you can smell them. And so you have this amazing bonus. You see them, they're beautiful, like a work of art. They're there like a friend greeting you. They smell great. And look, it takes a lot to get me out of bed. I'm not the kind of person who will get out of bed for donuts or for, bacon being cooked in the kitchen. Even some days, my two dogs, Homie and Yolo, they'll be sitting there like, come on, Mom. And I'm not rolling out of bed. But I will roll out of bed to see the dahlias that I cut blooming in the kitchen, because that is a beautiful, beautiful sight. And this plays right into the research, because in this study at Harvard, it was proven that flowers also provide a boost of energy. And you've kind of felt it, haven't you? But I bet you didn't notice it. See, I believe that energy that the researchers are talking about comes from that tiny feeling of awe. That when you really look at a flower and you marvel at it for a second, there's this just feeling of being awestruck. And that's where this energy comes from. It's like a life force energy. It's almost like sunshine in a vase. They make you smile and feel better. And now you know why. Because the research says it's true. And you want to know something that's also cool? There's even more science about flowers. There was another study done by researchers at Rutgers University that was all about what happens when you give flowers as a gift. Wait till you hear this. This is mind-blowing. When you give flowers as a gift, it activates something inside you that makes you feel more emotionally connected to the person that you're giving flowers to. How cool is that? And let's go back to that research from Harvard, because I think I know why the gift of flowers makes you feel more connected to the person that you're giving flowers to. Flowers are almost like a surrogate for you. Flowers are just like a representation of your love. The flowers are a reminder to the person that you send them to smile. They're a thing of beauty. And because they're alive, it's like sending them life force in a vase. And then you get to put something on the card. And when you write something on the card, guess what? The flowers even take on a bigger meaning, because the flowers represent the full sentiment of what you just wrote on the card. I love you. I miss you. Get better. I believe in you. Congratulations. Can you tell in my voice I'm just smiling, even talking about flowers? And I bet you are too. You want to know why? Because right now, as I'm talking about flowers and the beauty of flowers and the awe-struck feeling of really taking in a beautiful bloom. And I'm talking about how it makes you feel more connected to people and the moments in life where you send them to people. I guarantee you're thinking of someone. You're either thinking of someone who sent you flowers recently, or you're thinking of someone who you're like, oh, I should really send them some flowers. Like, I love that person. And yeah, you should. In fact, I got a story to tell you. Just last week, I had a really hard week at work. We are growing at hyperspeed. There's a lot of changes going on. I'm working on my next book. Oakley is graduating. So I am just feeling burnt out and tired. And I've been up here in Vermont just cranking away. And earlier this week, a friend of mine, Dr. Judith Joseph, who is this extraordinary MD, PhD researcher who has been on the Mel Robbins podcast. She is unbelievable. She sent me the most just insane arrangement of flowers. Like, I am talking jaw on the floor, 2 delivery people have to carry it in. It was the size of, you know, when you know those exercise balls at a gym? They're usually that sort of like bluish color, and you see people kind of sit on them and do sit-ups on them. They're probably 3 feet in diameter. You know what I'm talking about, right? This arrangement that Dr. Judith sent to me was that big. And I remember, this must have been a decade ago, I once saw Oprah Winfrey post a flower arrangement that either somebody had sent her or she had sent to somebody else. And it was an arrangement of either like bright red peonies or like 400 roses. And it was this massive mound of flowers. And I thought at the time, I have never seen an arrangement like that. That is the most extraordinary thing. I will never receive anything that extraordinary because I will never do anything that incredible that would be like, literally, I remember seeing that over a decade ago. And the arrangement that Dr. Judith Joseph sent was an arrangement on that scale. And it was all my favorite colors. Like, it was all the jewel tones. It was like coral peonies and pink roses and oranges and apricots and you know what I'm talking about. It was like a jewel box 3-foot globe of the most incredible flowers. And it went to our studios in Boston. I wasn't in our studios in Boston last week. I was 3.5 hours away in Vermont. And you want to know what? I literally felt sad that I missed them. Like, it goes to show you that flowers represent the person who sent them. It's as if one of my most favorite people stopped by the office while they were in town and I wasn't there to see them. And so my heart sank, and I'm not going to be able to enjoy it. Like, oh my gosh, I'm seeing the pictures and I want to see them. And so you know what I did? I gave them to a person on our team, Charlotte, who has been burning the midnight oil. She has been killing it. And I just said, you know what, Charlotte? I think you should take these home. You're going to need 4 of your colleagues to help you get them to your apartment, but you should take these home and you should enjoy them all weekend. And you know what she did? She got them home and she kept sending me photos of the flowers all weekend and just talking about how much joy they gave her. And in every photo, you could see that the flowers were opening a little bit more and this arrangement was like a living thing. And this is what the researchers are talking about. This connection. The flowers that Dr. Judith Joseph gave to me connects me to Dr. Judith. And then I shared them with Charlotte, somebody that I love and somebody that I wanted to do something awesome for. And that connects me to Charlotte. And the story doesn't end there because, you know, that was kind of midweek. And so I walk into my house here in Vermont on Friday, and we had been working all day, and I've got this little cabinet that was my great-grandmother's that sits in the entry of our house. And it's got this marble top. It's this antique cabinet that was, you know, in her house in Buffalo, New York. Normally, you know what's on top of that? Dog leashes and dog treats. Although we don't have the dog treats there anymore because YOLO has figured out he can jump up and eat the dog treats on the thing. I know, naughty. Normally, it's like dog leashes and people's keys. Sitting there on Friday at the end of a work week, there was an arrangement just like the one that Dr. Judith had sent to me at the studios in Boston. I nearly fell over. And I pulled the card out and I'm like, who the hell sent? It was from my sister-in-law, Christine, who's also my business partner. She's the chief operating officer, and she knows just how much I've been working. I burst into tears. I burst into tears. The thing was so freaking heavy, I couldn't even carry it into the kitchen. I had to get Chris to help me. And she must have sent a photo of the arrangement that went to the studio in Boston to a florist here in Vermont and was like, just do this. Because that's exactly what showed up. And I burst into tears because I just felt so connected to her. I felt so seen. Like it would have been the same thing if she had hopped on a plane and flown here from Chicago and been standing in the entry waiting to give me a hug. And they'd been sitting in the island in our kitchen for 10 days. And every time I walk into the kitchen, it's as if Christine is sitting in the middle of the island waiting to give me a hug. The research is right. They make me feel better. And the flowers make me feel connected to Dr. Judith and to Charlotte and to Christine. And I know you've felt this, haven't you? And I want you to know that when you send a beautiful arrangement to someone else, especially if it's out of the blue, they feel it too. They feel your love. They feel seen. And every time they see those flowers, they think of you. And by the way, this works for everybody. Flowers is not something limited to a gender, because flowers are about love and beauty and life and connection and magic and awe. That's why they're so powerful. And when you give yourself flowers, guess what? You honor your beauty. They are an act of love to you. And when you send them to someone else, you honor them. And get this is great. Like I've only scratched the surface on the research here. The research also reveals something crazy cool about giving somebody flowers. You ready? Flowers is a gift in comparison to anything else that you could give to somebody, okay? You know what flowers reveal? They reveal that you're likely to be viewed as successful, caring, and emotionally intelligent by the person who you send them to. Because people who receive the gift of flowers in a research study responds with what science call a true smile, not a fake smile. You've gotten a present where you're like, oh, thanks, yeah, thanks for the bottle of wine I don't drink. Yeah, oh, thanks, yeah, this framed picture that I think is hideous that I'm never going to put in my house. Yeah, thank you for that. A true smile is what people have. You can't help it. And here's more on the research. People who receive flowers as a gift, based on studies, report positive moods that last for days. Here's what the study found. The study found that, quote, the presence of flowers also led to increased contact with family and friends. And so I want you to really think about this, right? Because that could be a detail that you're like, meh, okay, whatever. Think about the last person who sent you flowers. Just think about that. What did you do? Well, you either called them, right? Or you sent them a text with a photo of the flowers. Why? Because the second you received them, it made you feel connected to them, which made you reach out, which then increased your connection with that family or that friend. Now, see, what I love about the research and this topic, right, is that you kind of know this. I mean, that's why we send flowers, right? Because you kind of know this. You know it's a good thing to send flowers because you're thinking of this person, and you know it feels really good to receive flowers, and so you kind of know this. But what you didn't know is that simply putting one little flower in a little glass next to your computer while you work, it somehow makes you feel better. But now you know the research. You don't have an excuse anymore to not do it. Anytime you want to do something uplifting for yourself, get yourself flowers. Anytime that you want to do something uplifting for someone else, get them flowers, because Harvard and Rutgers are now telling you, they have spent time, they have researched this, they have studies that has a proven and lasting impact. And here's how I want you to apply all this research to your daily life. I'm going to boil this down to you, okay? You ready? Number one, always have fresh flowers in your house or on your desk or next to your bed, somewhere where you can see them. Why? Well, you know the research, okay? You know that it makes you happier. You know that it boosts your mood. You know that it gives you something to look forward to. And check this out. It makes you feel more connected to the person who gave them to you. When you give yourself flowers, you feel more connected to yourself. If you want to have a better relationship with yourself, if you want to be kinder to yourself, if you want to feel like you're worthy, buy yourself flowers. Pick a flower from your garden. Stick it where you will see it. Because that little flower in the vase that you gave to you is evidence that you matter. It's evidence that you're kind to yourself. It's evidence that you're connected to yourself. It's evidence that you believe that you deserve things of beauty. You believe that you deserve to feel good. And I know it sounds silly. I'm asking you to do it. And I'm daring you to do it. And then I dare you to tell me it didn't make you feel a little better. Because it's not silly. Treating yourself with kindness, making yourself feel like you're worthy, doing small things that prove to you that you want to take better care of yourself, that's not silly at all. That's how you live a better life. That's how you feel better about yourself, by proving it. And here, I'm going to give you my tip. You're going to love this, okay? Because you can go to a florist and they could be very expensive, and you might not be near a farmer's market, or you don't have a garden, or you don't have a balcony or a deck where you can grow some flowers in a pot. No problem. Here is the best tip I can give you. When you go to the grocery store, I don't care where you live in the world, they always have a little flower area, right? Here's what I want you to do. I want you to skip all the mixed bouquets that they've made up. They're too expensive. They charge more for those. And I want you to head straight for the little buckets where there's a single group of a singular type of flowers. You know, there's the bucket with tulips. There's a bucket with lilies. There's a bucket maybe with peonies. There's a bucket with flowers that are in season no matter what time of year it is, whose names I don't know, that last forever in a vase. You get what I'm talking about. You want to buy the single bouquet of the single type of flower. Here's why. Number one, they're cheaper. Okay? They're cheaper than a mixed bouquet. Number two, when you take them home and you cut the ends off so that they can suck up the water and they look like a lot kind of crisper and cleaner, you can then separate them. Because in every bunch, there's usually somewhere between 5 to 12 stems of flowers in there. You can separate them and you can put them all over the house in just like little jars. And then you got fresh cut flowers everywhere for the cost of one bouquet that might have only been $5. And because you're getting it at a grocery store, you can do this year round. Your grocery store always has flowers. Got it? Good. So do it for yourself. Now, here's a second way that you can leverage this research. Today, when you're out and about and you're taking your walk, or you're running to the farmer's market, or you're heading to the grocery store, or you pass a flowering tree, or you walk by your neighbor's garden, stop. Stop. Even just stop. You know how a lot of restaurants have taken the time to plant planters with just beautiful flowers, whether it's in the entrance to the restaurant, or maybe they have flowers out on the back patio? Stop. Take 1 minute. And just marvel at how freaking unbelievable and complicated and insanely gorgeous a single flower bloom is. And if you follow me on social media, particularly Instagram, you've probably noticed I'm always posting flower photos because I am always just in awe of how extraordinary they are. In fact, every Friday night on Instagram, I tend to do a roundup of the week of photos, and there's almost always a flower blooming. And almost every day on the stories on Instagram, you'll see a close-up of some kind of flower that I've grown or some sort of flower that I've seen in my travels, because it's almost like a form of meditation. If you stop and smell the roses, right? Or stop and just look at the intricate detail of the flower in front of you, you have to be in the moment. You can't be thinking about your work deadline and just admiring all the little speckles that are on the inside of the petal of that lily. You can't. You can't be worried about the past if you are admiring the hundreds of petals on a peony that is opening up in front of you. You can't be up in your head beating the hell out of yourself, telling yourself you're not good enough if you are looking at a daffodil and just taking in the fact that it's bright yellow on the end of one petal, and as it gets toward the center of the flower, it gets a little bit lighter, but then the center part has orange, and holy cow, I've never noticed the red. You're in the moment. I always have a flower cut and sitting in a little jar right by my sink. I always do this. Why? Because as I'm washing the dishes, which I do, it seems 100 times a day. Do you feel like that? You're always at the freaking sink washing dishes? You see the flower, and all of a sudden you stop thinking about the future or the past. You stop griping about the dishes you need to do, and I just stare at the flower, and I take it in. And it is a form of moving meditation. It cues me to be in the moment. In fact, right now, I know you're listening to me, but if you're on YouTube, you can see behind me, I've got all these flowers that I have grown. I cannot believe I grew those flowers. There's these huge red tulips, and there's these beautiful, what's called variegated lilacs. It's the sensation lilac variety. It's purple with these white lines around the outside of the petal. And then there's this vase to my left of these pink tulips. And they're this beautiful kind of apricot-y pink. And if you really, really stare at the tulip, it's got this white stripe that goes up on the inside. And then you look on the inside and the little things that the bees, I love flowers, but I don't even know the technical names. I probably wouldn't be able to pronounce them anyway. It doesn't matter. I still admire it. Like, when the bees go in and then they get drunk on the pollen and there's those yellow things that are standing up in there that, like, holy cow, it's just incredible. And it's all around you. And admiring it outside at restaurants and in the park and on the sidewalk and passing your neighbors. It's free. It's free. And now you know the research that simply taking in the beauty of a single bloom helps you tap into the sense of awe. It lifts your mood. It boosts your energy. It will make you smile. And here's the third thing you can do. You're going to put flowers in your house. You're going to stop when you see them. You're going to send somebody that you care about flowers. Yep. Doesn't matter where you live in the world. You're either going to stop by the grocery store and grab some and hand deliver them, or you're going to look online. There's a bazillion amazing growers that you can find locally, places you can send from that are actually more affordable than you think. When my friend Jody, I've talked about Jody a lot on the podcast. She is my best friend, if you're a new listener, my best friend from elementary school. And she recently moved back to Western Michigan, where we grew up, because her parents are getting older and she wanted to be closer to them and she wants to be there to help take care of them. And it was a big emotional move. You're 56 years old, you're single, you're moving from San Diego where you've lived for 6 years and you've had your big job, and now you're going back to live with your parents to the small town of Western Michigan. I mean, that's a lot. And so I knew that I was not able to be in Western Michigan, so I sent a surrogate. I sent her an orchid. And when she first got it, she reached out. And she was just like, you could tell in that, when somebody writes you a text and you're just like, they're kind of writing it like, oh, that when she first reached out, she's like, oh, Mel, this means so much. You're so sweet. Like, I just can't believe it. Well, it's now 6 weeks later. And just 2 days ago, she sent me another photo. This thing is still in full bloom. And she wrote to me just 2 days ago, I'm sitting here on this finally warm night. As I look at this orchid, it is so lovely and it reminds me of you. Isn't that awesome? It's my way to be there with her and support her. And, I was really trying to think about, okay, why do flowers boost your connection to someone else? Why is that? Because the truth is, I could have easily sent her a book. I could have sent her a gift certificate for a massage. Lord knows, when you move home to take care of your parents, you need one. But when you send those kind of gifts, they're great gifts, don't get me wrong. But let's just kind of unpack this, right? The thing about flowers is that they're alive. And they're beautiful. There's that energy and the awe factor. It's almost as if that living, breathing, beautiful, flowering orchid is a stand-in for you. It's true, isn't it? Like, think about it. You can't look at a bouquet that somebody sent you and not think first about the person who sent it to you. I challenge you. Try to look at a bouquet of flowers that somebody sent you for your graduation or your birthday or just because, and not think about them. I'll give you another example. Right now on my desk, there's a flower arrangement. No surprise there. But this one is from a company called United Talent Agents. These are the agents who I work with who represent the Mel Robbins podcast and our digital business. So I want to give a huge shout out to Oren and the team over at UTA. But they sent me this really beautiful arrangement. And the card that came with it is sitting on my desk. And the arrangement is in honor of this huge milestone that you and I have reached 100 million downloads on the Mel Robbins podcast. Like 100 million. I mean, the fact that 100 million times you put earbuds in and you hit play, or you jumped in your car and you turned this on, or you went for a walk and you took me with you 100 million times. You've invited me into your life. If I could send you flowers right now to show you how much I love you, how much I appreciate you for inviting me into your life the way that you have, I would send you one of those 3-foot huge globe arrangements like Dr. Judith sent me that requires 2 people to carry it up to your door. That's what I would do. And so I was reflecting on the phone with Orrin, like, holy cow, dude, 100 million downloads? 18 months. That is no joke. And so the very next day, I'm sitting up here above the garage, working away on the podcast, there's a knock on the door and flowers arrive. And I opened up the card and it says, Mel, 100 million is no joke. You should be so proud. Here's to 100 million more. We love you, your UTA team. Now those flowers and the fact that they took a card and said what I said, those flowers aren't flowers. It's as if the whole team is sitting here with their arms around me as I'm just working away at my desk going, we are so proud of you, Mel. Keep going. Keep going. And the card, I'm one of those people that I keep a good card. I keep a good flower card. I know you do too. And can you believe there's even more research and science on this topic? Like, I don't need any more reasons to want to be cutting flowers and looking at flowers and sending flowers. But there's this research about the act of generosity. It is scientifically proven to make you happy when you do something generous for somebody else. I mean, how many more reasons do you need to get on the flower bandwagon with me? Whether you are being really generous with yourself, let's start with you. Start with you. Buy yourself those flowers. In fact, don't ever go grocery shopping ever again, if it's in your budget, without spending $5 on flowers for yourself. If you can grow flowers, and if you can't grow flowers, admire flowers. Go out of your way to give flowers to your friends. It will make you happy. It will make them happy. It's like a 2-for-1 happiness boost. And I want to give you another tip, okay, about the grocery store. Because, again, we're going to remember, walk past all the mixed bouquets. They're too expensive. I want you to go straight for the single variety that are wrapped up, right? The tulips, the peonies. Here's what I want you to do next. You're going to grab them, but then you're going to walk up to that counter at the grocery store, okay? And even if you are living in a city that has a lot of bodegas, so think about New York City, tons of listeners in New York City, tons of listeners in Toronto and London. You got those grocery stores that have flowers on the outside of the store, so you pick them up outside. Even there, you take them inside and just ask either the person working at the counter at the flower place where they sell the balloons in a grocery store, or take them inside to the couple that's running the bodega and just tell them, this is a gift. You don't have to say it's a gift for you. You know what they're going to do for free? They cut the stems, they cut the plastic off and take the price tag off, and they rewrap it in nice clear plastic or a nice clean piece of paper. They do it for free. It's like now a super nice gift, and it's for you or it's for somebody you love. And by the way, you want to know something super cool? You know, the person that's working that counter at the grocery store, they're either bored out of their mind or they would be stocking vegetables. So when you walk up and say, hey, could you help me? Like, this is a gift. You know, would you? They're like, oh, everybody gets so excited. Yeah, I'd love to. And oftentimes, you know what they do? They literally cut it. They cut the stems. You see them start fluffing up the flowers and arranging them to make it look nice, because they get to do something beautiful too. They get to be around the flowers too. They get to be part of the gift too. So you're not putting anyone else out by asking somebody to wrap them for you. You're making someone else happier. So have I convinced you yet? You know, really start loving and living with fresh flowers? I hope so. Have I convinced you to start giving them? Because it's not just petals and blooms and flowers that make you happier. Like, all this research is even bigger than flowers. You mentioned colors, and there is so much that you have uncovered that is fascinating about how colors influence so much in terms of our mood, our behaviors, our physical strength. Let's unpack that.
Yeah, so some of this is my research, some of it's other people's research. And I got interested in color because I can't see color very well. I'm colorblind.
Oh, you are?
I'm colorblind. So I'm sort of fascinated by color.
How did you figure out that you were colorblind?
It took a while. You know, when I was young, I would get colors right because all the colors in little picture books are so bright and obvious. So that was never a problem. But as I got older, it seemed like I lost the ability to distinguish colors. I think my parents were a bit concerned. They were like, what's going on? There's something going on in Adam's brain. We need to figure this out. So I did a series of tests, and they identified that I had certain kinds of color blindness. And so it made total sense. But it's kind of subtle. So you can't pick it up when kids are very young sometimes. It takes a little while to figure it out. But it made me really interested in color. And in particular, in the question of whether the way I see the world is, whether it's different from how you do. Do we all see the world the same way? And then assuming that there is some uniformity to that, is that exposure to color influencing us in any way that's predictable? And the answer is yes. There are all sorts of interesting effects.
Let me ask a question. So
yeah.
Given that you're colorblind,
yes,
and you are researching the impact that color has on our mood, our emotions, even things like physical strength, it also can influence the actions that you take. Is the color influencing all of us the same way, even if you're colorblind and the color appears slightly duller, or, you know, if you're color, you see what I'm saying?
Yeah, 100%. So there are two ways it could affect you. So one of them is just association. So maybe I see the color yellow and it makes me think of the sun and fire, and I see green and I think of natural environments. So it's just the association. It reminds me of other things that are green or yellow or blue or whatever. The other one is, as you say, maybe it doesn't matter if you can actually see that it's green or yellow. Maybe it's something about the wavelength that hits your eye, it hits your retina, and your brain is doing something with that information that whether or not you can see that it's yellow or green or red or whatever, you're responding the same way. I think most of it is association for us, that there are certain things that have certain colors, and then that reminds us of those things. So a lot of us talk about blues and greens being more soothing, reds and yellows being more activating, which can be good or bad depending on what you're looking for. I think if I didn't know that a color was red and I couldn't see it and it looked washed out to me, it would have less of an effect for me.
Got it.
Yeah.
So what colors affect our moods?
Well, all colors have some effect.
Okay.
They have some effect, not just on mood, but on all sorts of different outcomes for us. There's a really interesting research looking at how the colors that competitors wear in sports affect how they play. So there's some work looking at Olympic athletes in combat sports like judo and wrestling and taekwondo. And in the Olympics, what they did a while ago was they decided that they were going to randomly assign each competitor to either wear blue or red before each bout.
Yeah.
As a way to just be fair. Like, we're going to randomly pick red and blue, and you're going to get your color in, and you're going to go into the bout. But one of the things that researchers discovered was when we wear red, we feel stronger, we feel more dominant. And when you see someone else wearing red, You perceive them as more dominant. And there are very lower order reasons for this. Like if you look at animals, the animals with more red are more dominant in general. So if you look at 100 birds from the same species, the ones with more red feathers or a redder face will be the alpha birds. And that's going to be true for apes and other animals as well. So the color red has a really big effect, and it's associated with sort of how well your blood flows through your body and things like that. And it's a sort of signal that someone is strong and dominant. And what you actually find is in these Olympic bouts, when the competitors are evenly matched, if you are assigned to wear red, you win about 2/3 of the time despite being evenly matched.
Really?
So it has a huge effect on these outcomes, yeah.
Wow. So, Dr. Halter, does that mean if I'm going in for like a negotiation for a job, I should be wearing red, or an interview or a date?
Yes, with a caveat.
Okay.
So the yes is, yes, it will do that. It'll make you seem more dominant. It also turns out to make people more attractive to others.
Really?
Which is interesting too. Yeah. So there's research looking at dating profiles where you have the same picture. You just change every 2 months the color of the shirt you're wearing.
Uh-huh.
People get much more attention online when they're wearing, it's the same picture, but when they're wearing red rather than any other color.
Wow.
So there is all sorts of good reason to surround yourself with red. It's true even if you have a border around your picture and it happens to be a red border rather than blue or green or another color. But red also has other meaning too, right? It's not a color that we don't notice. So you're signaling something beyond just I'm dominant and making yourself look more attractive. It's a conscious choice. And so if people are seeing that and drawing other inferences from the fact that you've chosen red, then maybe it's something you don't want to do if it's very unusual in that context, for example. But beyond that, as long as that's not an issue, there is very good reason to wear red.
Wow. And what colors calm us down?
The most calming colors are generally blues and greens. And I think a lot of that is the association we have with nature, which we discussed. So natural environments are very calming. Water, the sky, trees, leaves, things like that. And so I think a lot of that comes from just the sort of calmness you get with the association with those colors.
So one of your international bestsellers, Drunk Tank Pink, very interesting name.
Yeah.
And there's very interesting research about that sort of bubblegum Pepto-Bismol pink color. Can you explain that? Yeah.
So the name is... Drunk Tank Pink is a name that was given to this very bright bubblegummy pink color. It was used for a while inside, they were called drunk tanks, where you put people who are kind of aggressive, often drunk, you're trying to calm them down. And researchers found that if these drunk tanks were painted pink, in their words, you could calm these people down much more quickly. That within 15 minutes, they'd be calm.
And did it work?
There's some evidence that it worked. I think the research is a little bit shaky, but there was some evidence that this pink color did calm people down. It got a huge amount of attention in the 80s. There was a 60 Minutes episode about it.
Wow.
It really got a lot of attention. And so I thought it was just a sort of fascinating emblem of the kinds of effects you might see from cues that you might think would have a smaller effect on us. But by being surrounded by those colors, there are huge effects. In fact, the visiting locker room at the University of Iowa is painted Drunk Tank Pink in an attempt to calm down the opposition when they spend time in that locker room. So it's been used in a lot of different contexts more recently.
Yeah, well, and I think where my mind goes is both to the Miami soccer team.
Right.
But
exactly.
They're a little bit more bright, and also to the beautiful trend of athletes wearing pink for breast cancer awareness, which obviously is signaling something else. But
yes.
I think that's fascinating. If you're put in a bubblegum pink room, that it just sort of dulls your mood a little bit if you're a bit aggressive.
Yeah, regarding Inter Miami, there are people who, when they box, they will only wear pink boxing trunks because they think it'll make their opposition a little bit less strong. And so I don't think that's why Inter Miami is pink and they have that pink uniform, but that's one of the theories.
Wow. So can you talk about mirrors and how
Sure.
you can use them to change your behavior?
Yeah, there's a lot of research looking at what happens when we see a human face. So one of the things that happens when you see a face, particularly eyes, is you feel that you're being watched. And when you're being watched, it changes your behavior in certain predictable ways.
Okay.
So if you think about a store that has a lot of shoplifting, one of the things these stores do if they can't afford constant surveillance is they put up more mirrors because we are less likely to behave badly when we have to look at ourselves doing it.
Really?
Yeah.
Why?
Because it basically forces you, not just metaphorically, but to look into your own eyes, literally. And you have to decide, is this the right way to behave? It makes us much more introspective and thoughtful about what we're doing. So there are these really interesting experiments where you say to people, privately, you can toss a coin, and if you get heads, you get a delicious jelly bean, and if you get tails, you have to eat something that's not very nice. And if you let people do that without a mirror, they all report, oh yeah, I got heads. There are a lot of people who report getting heads, more than 50%, which you would expect.
Okay.
So people are kind of fudging the numbers a little bit. When you get them to do that same task in front of a mirror where they're looking at themselves, 50-50. So they become honest again.
Really?
Yeah. So, there are some, I think, interesting implications. One of them that I've always found quite useful is if a lot of people might have like a cupboard in their home somewhere, maybe in the pantry where they keep their chocolates and things that they want to eat only occasionally.
Mine's in a drawer.
Right, or a drawer.
Yes.
And when you open that cupboard or when you go into the pantry, one thing a lot of people do now is they'll put up a little mirror.
What?
So what happens is you're like, I'm reaching for the chocolate. I have to look at myself in my eyes. I have to scrutinize this decision. And sometimes it's fine, but other times maybe I look at myself and I'm like, okay, fine, I'll leave that chocolate sitting there for a little bit longer. So it basically forces you to be a little bit more thoughtful about your decisions.
Well, I could see how that would happen because, if you think about opening up a fridge, if there was a giant mirror in there, I'd be like, oh, you again? Okay, shut the thing. So I might actually have to try this, putting a mirror in the bottom of the drawer.
Yeah, there you go.
Where I have all of our snacks. We call it the snack drawer. So could you use a mirror to kind of cue yourself when it comes to bad habits? Is that like an environmental trigger that can be effective in making you stop and think?
Yeah, I think so. So I think what the mirror does is it makes you think more deeply, and it especially makes you think more deeply about doing the wrong thing, where it's something that's contrary to what you think you should be doing, because you have to do it in your own presence. It's like you're watching yourself. And so it's a very powerful cue in all those cases.
I love that.
Yeah.
That's I can think of a lot of implications for that. Like if you're somebody who's trying to cut down on drinking, having a mirror sitting there when you open up the cabinet where okay, I see you. Not so fast today.
So this study, when I first read it, I was a little bit floored by it. So this
floored
is
in the this is stupid or floored? Because there's
a mix.
There's some
felt
research
stupid,
we find.
and I cannot believe how big of an impact and how big this study is for what it is. But I think this is a very simple thing that anyone can do for 1 second each day.
Wait, 1 second.
1 second.
Well, I think 5 seconds can change somebody.
5
You are
seconds.
taking it down, Tracy.
This one thing is going to give you an improvement in mental well-being for 8 hours. And it works in healthy people. It works in those with depression. It works in those with all different kinds of mental health challenges. Here is the study. This was a huge study in the UK at King's College London, huge reputable research university that was published in Scientific Reports.
Can I just stop you?
Yeah.
Because I'm trying to think of what this is.
Okay. I don't think you're going to get it right.
Orgasm?
No.
No? Okay.
No.
I can't think of anything else.
So this study took place across a 4-year span. They collected data of 20,000 assessments, and they had global participants in this study. And do you know what they found, Mel?
That would improve my life for 8 hours after just doing this for 1 second. No.
The study is called Feeling Chirpy. So in this study, what's really interesting too is you might think, okay, you're out in nature, that's the benefit. But no. They isolated, it is not about trees. It is not about plants. It is not about being by the water. It works if you listen on an app.
Really?
There is something about the sound of birds. You can go on YouTube. You can listen to a birdsong app. You could get outside. But that deeply resonates with us, even at a subconscious level, for 8 hours of improved mental well-being, up to 8 hours.
That's incredible. It reminds me... up here in Vermont, when my in-laws owned this house, there was a clock that used to hang in the kitchen. And every single hour was the photo of a different bird. Mm-hmm. And when the clock would hit the hour, the chirping of the bird would happen. And it didn't matter how many people were in the kitchen. Everybody would stop and turn toward the clock. Mm-hmm. And so... on some level, this seems like one of those studies where you're like, honestly, who the hell even got this idea? But if they've got more than 26,000 assessments
over 4 years,
over 4 years, there's something here. And I just wonder, because I wonder if this has to do with evolution and the fact that if you think about our ancestors, truly navigating and migrating and following patterns of nature and wind and stars and the migratory patterns of birds.
Yeah.
That I wonder if there is this connection. And, you know, I agree. I love the sound of birds, except for a crow. I don't like a crow. But if I hear a songbird chirping,
Yeah.
it does cause a lift in mood.
Yeah.
That's incredible. Wow. So now I'm sitting down mindfully. I'm listening for birds.
Yeah. Just to put it on YouTube after your episode of the Mel Robbins podcast.
Maybe we should just play some birds right now.
Let's play the bird sound.
Owner of the Brush Bar in Scottsdale is asking, imposter syndrome is real, especially as you try new things and grow in your career. Once you push through and decide to make change or make a change, what are some tangible things you can do in the short term to build your confidence?
So, great question. The research around confidence is very clear. Confidence is not a feeling. Here's a new definition of confidence. Confidence is the willingness to try. Confidence is the willingness to try. And the reason why this definition is critical is because the research shows that confidence, as we talk about it like a feeling, is gained from competency. Competency is a fancy word that basically means you know what you're doing. And the only way to know what you're doing is to practice it over and over and over again. And when you practice something, you start to gain skills and you lose your resistance and your fear around it. And that's where the feeling of confidence comes in. But in order to gain confidence, which is why I like the definition, you have to be willing to try something you've never done before. And so you have confidence and you display confidence when you're willing to try something. That's it. And so you got to keep that definition in mind. That's number one. Number two, it really helps me when I'm learning a new skill to imagine a bridge. I believe that all transitions and all like learning curves are just bridges. You start on one side and you have to cross a bridge and it's going to get you to the other side. Some bridges are like that one in San Francisco. Long, it's covered in clouds, you can't see the other side, but you know eventually you're going to get there if you just keep putting one foot in front of the other. You just keep trying. Another thing I want you to understand is that the single most confident thing that anybody could say is a 3-word sentence. Most confident thing. I don't know. When somebody is in a meeting and they're asked a question and you say, I don't know, but I can find out. I don't know. Don't you immediately trust that person? Mm-hmm. Of course. It takes a lot of confidence to just say that in a room. And so what I want you to understand is imposter syndrome only means you're on the bridge. The way you cross the bridge is waking up every day and just trying, just being willing to try. You don't have to have all the answers. You have to have the courage to say, I don't know. And when you focus on just waking up every day and trying, you build the skills, which lowers the resistance and fear, which makes you competent, which then makes you catch up to feeling confident. Hey, it's Mel. Thank you so much for being here. If you enjoyed that video, by God, please subscribe because I don't want you to miss a thing. Thank you so much for being here. We've got so much amazing stuff coming. Thank you so much for sending this stuff to your friends and your family. I love you. We create these videos for you. So make sure you subscribe. Mwah.